Do you want to know how to make money on TikTok? Imagine turning TikTok from a distraction into your highest ROI sales channel. That's exactly what today's guests help brands do every single day. Welcome to the Ecomm Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Hadley. I scaled my own brand from 0 to 8 figures in sales, and now my mission is to take it to over 9 figures in sales. On my journey to 9 figures, I bring you unfiltered conversations with the smartest minds in e-commerce. Past guests include Kevin King, Ezra Firestone, and Michael E. Gerber, author of The E-Myth. Today, I'm excited to welcome onto the show Rafe and Graham. They are the founders of The Uptick, an education and mentorship platform that helps e-commerce brands and entrepreneurs scale through TikTok. With over a decade of experience in e-commerce and short-form video, they've helped thousands of businesses grow on platforms like TikTok, Shopify, and Amazon using proven frameworks that drive real results. Their approach bridges the gap between traditional e-commerce and the creator economy, turning social media attention into anti-fragile revenue. They've worked with everyone from early stage founders to billion-dollar brands, and their new book, Scroll to Sold, breaks down exactly how to turn TikTok attention into sales. With that introduction, welcome to the show, Rafe and Graham.
Thanks for having us, man.
Good to be here.
Excited to have you both on here because now I've got like two powerhouses on here. So we're gonna have. Usually it's hard enough just to have one person, diving deep. Now we're gonna have two people. There's gonna be a lot of competing for the mic, I feel like, in today's episode. So This is gonna be awesome. But first, tell me about your guys' new book that you just came out with.
Yeah, I mean, what I noticed in this space is that a lot of people didn't understand the fundamentals, and the sort of content that you're getting out there is either behind a paywall or stuff that you just get off ChatGPT. And because we've had so many experiences with so many brands and spoken to so many who've been so successful in the social commerce TikTok shop space, we wanted there to be a field guide for brands who are just dipping their toes in or who've already, dove deep into TikTok shop to see, are we doing the fundamentals and are we applying these more advanced tactics to be able to scale on the platform? That was kind of the idea behind creating the book.
And also for creators as well. So the book covers both brand owners wanting to embrace TikTok and monetize in a systematic and a repeatable way, but also so many creators out there are obviously with TikTok shop and things moving so fast, and they're seeing things that are happening, and maybe they were just there for entertainment and education. And they're like, no, I'd like to make some money too, but like anything, can I just get some basic frameworks to get started? So like anything, in a book, you can't give them all the secrets, but what you can get them is getting moving, get them success, and then they can build out from there. So it serves both the creators and the brands because both sides are so important in this social space.
Well, I love it. I know I'm going to be diving into that book myself and getting the sneak peek behind it. And then what we'll hopefully do today is even try to dive even deeper. Maybe there's some untold secrets not in the book that we can get to disclose. So I love it, but I love what you guys are doing. And I think here's the advantage that I think to all the listeners listening to this is that you have some experts that have worked with from startups to billion-dollar brands. Like they know how things work on social commerce, and they're not just like a one-trick pony. Like, hey, we had success on TikTok Shop, and now that's the only thing we do, right? Like their experience covers like Shopify and Amazon as well. So like you guys have a holistic view of like what's going on in the e-commerce platforms, and that's what I love. So I want to dive deep right now because Graham and Rafe, I hear this over and over again, and I would argue that like more than 75% of the people that I think try to get on TikTok Shop and try to have success end up losing money. And then they say, yeah, I tried it. I did it for like 3 to 6 months and I just lost a lot of money. They either worked with an agency or they did it themselves. Like that's what I hear. And then it's a small 10% of people that are like, I'm crushing it on TikTok Shop and I'm making money. So if that's the case, like what do you guys see working, or in your experience, what's the separation between the people that are having success and the people that have struggled on TikTok?
Great question. I think the way I would get the listener to answer this own question is you wouldn't jump on Amazon for the very first time without researching your competition and looking at listings and figuring out the pattern recognition of what's working. You wouldn't launch a Shopify store without looking at competitors in your niche to see how you can create a converting listing. But what we're finding with a lot of brands is they've got a ton of budget. They see it as a new channel. They just want to throw money in it, but they don't understand what's actually working on the platform from a content perspective. They don't understand how the listing works, and they don't know what brands that they look up to did when they first launched. And Graham has this really great piece about benchmarking, and this is something we tell every single brand to do, to benchmark in the beginning. And I'll let him double click on that, but that's an essential first piece.
I think it's just understanding the rules of the game, like getting involved in anything. We a lot of brands that we work with, as you've mentioned, Josh, you sort of tried and sort of going around in circles with the TikTok platform, and then as we sort of deep dive into where they're at, there's a friend of mine told me this, and I saw that brand doing that, so I tried this and I watched this the other day. But there's no sort of systematic approach, and brands that we're working with now and understandably, it would make sense that they're looking at other brands in their niche who are doing really well, and they're trying to implement exactly what they're doing right now. But the truth of the matter is you need to look at what that brand did 6, 12, 18, 24 months ago when the platform first started, or when they first got on there and started getting traction. How many creators did they reach out to? How many shopping videos did they do? Because when you can see their success, but not what they're doing right now, but what they did in month 1, month 2, month 3, it gives you those rules of the game. And we ask our members to do that with multiple brands in the same or even adjacent lanes. Maybe they sell different products, but maybe they're speaking to the same kind of audience. Because with that, then that gives you, right, I know what I need to do to actually get to a stage where I can actually start making some judgments. Because if you've put up 50, 150 or 250 shoppable videos in the first month, how do we know without the research that if that's actually what's necessary to break through the noise? So product market fit is a real thing. And that's why many people are stuck in what we call the cold start, this little TikTok jail. And they think, you know what, I'm doing all the right things. Well, maybe you are, but maybe you're not. So understand the rules of the game is a big piece that we get all brands to move forward with.
I love it. So, I mean, the biggest question then is like, how do I get those benchmark data points, right? If I'm to look at, some of the, maybe some adjacent competitors and be like, okay, I can see what they're doing now, but I have no idea what they did in order to start their brand, right? And how they got some initial success. How do you walk people through that to set realistic benchmarks? And I also loved your thought of like, hey, 250 pieces of content. I don't know, sounds like a lot, but is it? Is it not? How do I measure that? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's really 3 buckets, but the very first one is like, okay, knowing who your competition actually is. A lot of people fall into the gap of or the fallacy of the empty room problem. So their product or their particular niche is not blowing up on TikTok Shop yet. So they'll think, oh, somebody must have tried this and there's just no success on this thing. So there's no point in me actually trying. Or they'll see a bunch of competitors and they'll be like, oh, it's too late. I've missed the boat and it's saturated. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. The truth is TikTok Shop is a very new platform. So you're still early. It's just maturing a little bit. And so step 1 of that process is first identify who either your direct competitors are or the ones that are adjacent that are serving the same problem space. Then using tools like Halo Data, FastMoss, there's a ton out there that allow you to go back historically to see, okay, when did this brand actually launch on TikTok Shop? And then what you're looking at out of those 4 or 5 competitors is, okay, how many shuffle videos did they have? How many affiliates did they work with? How many products did they launch? Because a lot of the times, some of these brands are launching 20 SKUs and like, let's see what works. But it takes 5.4 times for a consumer on TikTok to see your product to make a purchasing decision. And if you're spreading that 250 videos across 20 videos, 250 videos across 20 products, it's just going to take you so much longer. And you've lost enthusiasm, you've lost obviously money and samples, and you've gone really nowhere. And so once you have that, then finding that average month 1, month 2, month 3, and then you're like, okay, this is the recipe that these brands used to create demand. We're not launching on Amazon that fulfills demand. We're trying to create demand. Okay, so in month 1, if we don't hit this average, then we're off track. If we hit it, cool, we're on track, then we can optimize, right? The third and final piece is like, we want to achieve product market fit, yes, but if you've never done any sort of video ad content or short form content, you also need to achieve product content market fit. So it's like, how can your product effectively show the benefits of it in a video format that is replicatable and that actually gets people from awareness, consideration to conversion. And without those pieces, without doing that in the very beginning before you launch, it's really hard to know, like, is my money actually going to get an ROI, you know?
And it's also that, and I understand, like, business owners in general, they just want the revenue ASAP, but you have to understand you've got a date before you get married with TikTok. You just can't just jump in and be like, hi, here I am, buy this stuff right now. So much needs to be around the awareness consideration in regards to the content. Raf always talks about speak to the problem space your product lives in. Like, features and benefits are lovely, but at the same time too, what is the problem space your product lives in, and how can we expand that problem space in the in somebody's mind to not only be like, well, actually, not only do you have a problem that you can solve for me, but I didn't even know the problem existed. So this is the creating demand side of things. And this is so much of the content, especially early days, that you need to do to build that know, like, trust, to expand that problem space. So when you start building out content with the CTA, with the creators, this is something where, like, you know what, they realize that, hang on a second, I've seen this everywhere. And yes, this is something I need to solve. So everything is much smoother rather than trying to, not a hard sell, but you know what I
mean. Yeah, I love that. So what you're saying, though, is if somebody's new onto TikTok Shop and you want to maybe reverse engineer how a competitor or somebody else had success, go to use tools like Kalo Data, FastMoss, go back in time, which you can see how many creators they were working with, how many shoppable videos were there during this month or this week, and kind of reverse engineer it from there. But I would also say, I mean, let me know what you guys are, what your guys' thoughts are now. I would almost say, all right, if it's cute if you saw what they did back in 2024, but like, I would say there's probably more videos being put out on TikTok now than there are 2 years ago in 2024 at this point, right? So like, do you almost have to take those metrics and be like, okay, well, they only had 100 shoppable videos back then, so like times it by 3 now, and that's what you need to be doing? Or how do you take that into consideration?
Really good question. I think the exercise does a few things. The first thing it does is it resets the waterline for brands, especially if they've only been an Amazon seller or only been a Shopify seller. They drastically underestimate the volume required to break through the noise on a platform like TikTok. And so if they don't do this, it's not necessarily a rule to hit this metric. It is a guideline. And more often than not, you are going to have to do more in formats that are different to what the formats your competitors did. But lets you know, okay, if I'm not at least above this line, then I'm not even doing the equivalent of volume that's required. And most of these brands come into it completely blind, thinking like, I've given out 100 samples or 200 samples. Why am I not successful? It's like, well, I mean, who did you give the creators to? How many products did you give samples out to? How did you support the creators? What was your communication with them? What was your offer? Like, you know, there's all these things, but if you don't know the first step, you're kind of doomed to fail, you know, or you get lucky, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a really good benchmark to just say, like, this is the minimum of what worked, even if it were 2 years ago. And I think you're right. I think that this game on TikTok Shop gets more, like, the bar just keeps getting set higher and higher every month that goes by. Like, that's that much more like content that needs to be produced in order for you to like break through. So I do think like there's definitely some first mover advantages here. And, you know, my favorite analogy is like Alex Hormozi talks about this, where when he wanted to grow his personal brand, right? And I can't remember who it was that he paid, but he paid like a large 6-figure like consulting sum to somebody to say like, hey, how do I get my personal following to as big as yours? Like, I want millions of followers. And they simply told him like, hey, how many times are you posting a day? And he patted himself on the back saying like 3. And they were like, yeah, try 400 pieces of content a day, then see. And he was like, that's it. That's all I needed to, that's it. I know what I need to do at this point. And I think that that's honestly going to be the answer for most people. Like TikTok, I think it is going to require whatever you think your initial investment's going to be, like almost like probably 10x it. To say like, do you really want to succeed? It's volume.
Yeah, and the investment doesn't necessarily have to come in like money. Like it's investment in time, investment in building your own content. I think in the beginning, those early mover advantages, it's like, okay, if I just posted any shopper video with any affiliate, it would pop off because obviously TikTok was leaning towards it. But you know how many brands I see that like got to 100, 150K, now they're only at 20 and 30Ks because they haven't invested in creating a presence on the account, like on TikTok itself. So their seller operated revenue is at absolutely zero. Their paid strategy is just like, oh, I'm just going to put some money in GMV Max and see what happens. Like there's no strategy behind any of that. And one thing with the benchmarking that I think is important for listeners to hear, like we're not going back to competitors or adjacent brands that started 24 months ago. We want to see the ones that are within the last 12 months or so, because that will give us a more realistic. So that's just the one caveat that I'll add to that. Because like if I look back at Kiala Nutrition, who started like very first, greens powder, it's like unoptimized listings, everything, but they were first, you know, so they crushed it. And so that wouldn't make sense for another greens powder who's launching like right now, you know?
Yeah.